This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granic. Canada is once again being told that sweeping new government powers are necessary for our own good. This time, it comes in the form of Bill C-2, a massive piece of legislation sold as a tool to fight money laundering, organized crime, and national security threats. But buried within it is a proposal that would fundamentally change how Canadians use money. Strict new limits on cash transactions, donations, and deposits. Supporters argue this is simply a modern governance keeping pace with a digital economy. Critics say it's something far more consequential, a quiet but decisive step forward toward ending paper money altogether. And that raises a serious question Canadians should be asking right now. When the government restricts how you can pay, donate, or save, is that about stopping criminals or about controlling citizens? Cash, after all, is more than a payment method. It's anonymous, it's resilient and accessible. It works when the power goes out, when systems fail, and when people don't want or can't afford every purchase to be tracked. Limiting cash use may sound technical, but it touches on the core issues of privacy, financial inclusion, civil liberties, and the balance of power between the state and the individual. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Shawn Taylor, Senior Features Editor at the C2C Journal and author of the recent article titled Cash Constrained, Bill C2 and Ottawa's Plan to End Paper Money. His piece argues that the government's justification doesn't hold up and that Canadians should be deeply concerned about where this road leads. Peter, welcome back to Counterpoint. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic. I've always loved the debate, cash versus cashless. What are the pros and cons of each? So why don't we start with Bill C-2, as I outlined in my opener. What exactly does Bill C-2 do to cash? And why do you believe it represents a turning point rather than simply a minor regulatory tweak?
Sure. Well, C2 came in the summer, and it was an enormous bill. It was called the Strong Borders Bill. It included all sorts of very controversial stuff about government surveillance and immigration and government powers. But as you said, buried deep within there was a curious little section on money laundering. And Bill C-2 is still a going concern. They took the government, it was so controversial, they took some of the elements and put it in C-12, but C-2 and C-12 are still going on, just so everybody knows that it's still a live matter. So what C-2 proposes is that it would ban all cash transactions over $10,000. That's anything you could do with cash. Make a charitable donation, deposit money in your bank, you'd buy a used car for $10,000, anything. It would all be illegal. It would also ban night drops, which is when a restaurant or a bar or some sort of business that is open past banking hours, they can take their cash receipts from that night and they go to the bank, and you see these sort of metal mailboxes in the front of a bank, and you can put all the cash in there, and so it's safe. You don't have to keep that money overnight in your restaurant or bar or whatever it was. So both of those things are proposed to be made illegal. It's important to know as background that cash transactions of over $10,000 already face pretty strict reporting requirements. If you go to the bank and you deposit $10,000 in cash, they take your name. There's a flag is sent on to FinTrack, which is a federal government anti-money laundering organization. So there's already quite a bit of government surveillance, if you will, of cash transactions over $10,000. But this would forbid it completely.
Wow, which is interesting. I'm thinking of who does cash transactions of that scope, and where I live in part of rural Ontario, I know there are Amish communities where they will buy $1 million parcel of land with $1 million in cash. Like here's money. I don't know how that will work for them. But of course, all of this is done under the auspices of fighting money laundering. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more after in the break in about 30 seconds. But why do you believe cash is being unfairly targeted?
Well, they've made it sound like only criminals deal in large cash transactions, but I mean that's not the case, and we can get into that later. I think the important thing, though, is if they make dealing in cash a hassle for businesses, they may just stop saying, restaurants, bars, whatever may say, it's too much business. If we make $10,000 over a weekend, I can't actually put it in the bank. So I'm just not going to take cash at all anymore. And the
Right.
problem is people at home
Actually,
may
we're going to
say,
pause
I
that
didn't
for a
buy
second.
anything.
I want to pick up
Sure.
that in just a few moments.